By 1985, it had been 8 years since Edward Surratt allegedly murdered William Adams and abducted William's wife, Nancy, from their Falston trailer home. Meanwhile, Nancy's mother, Jean Batto, continued to endlessly search for her daughter in hopes that Nancy would be found.
Come down the valley with me. Come down where darkness came to be. Come down, the story still told. The night the shotgun slayer took hold. Come down the valley with me. No stranger thing has happened, you see. Come down, so brazen and bold. The night the shotgun slayer took hold.
In September of that year, Jean finally gets her answers when human remains are discovered by a couple who were walking their property line near Brady's Run Park.
The Beatties that owned the property were walking in a creek valley, and they decided to go up over the hill toward the road, on Park Road, and thinking there was big rocks and stuff, it was a cave or something, and they went up. They saw a human head, what they thought was a human head, so they didn't touch anything, went home and called the state police, I think it was first.
I called Lieutenant Bundy. He arrived at the scene. We discussed things for a few minutes and decided to make contact with Dr. Smith, who was a forensic pathologist in the medical center. He came, asked for the skull. We showed him where the skull was. He felt it was a female. He asked for the pelvic bones. I showed him where the pelvic bones were. He went over, looked at those, and determined that she was in fact a female, and that she had had one, possibly two children from just looking at the bones. He then asked me if I had any idea who that would be. Who it would be, and the only person at the time that we had missing was Miss Adams. Also, the next day, or 2 days later, Trooper Keenan and several other troopers came to the station and asked us to show them where the scene was. We went down and showed them the scene, and they had a metal detector. They found several items of jewelry that she had that was known to be with her at the time. They took them to her mother, and she quickly identified them as being Miss Adams' rings.
Not long after it's publicized that Nancy Adams' body has been found, an intriguing report is given to the police. Approximately 7 years earlier, Robert Milligan was with his wife and daughter traveling down Park Road when Robert decided to pull over and get out of his car and go over the embankment to pick up rocks for their garden. Parked in front of Robert's car was another vehicle. The windows were steamed up and there was a white female inside. Outside the vehicle, a black man walked towards Robert. There was a strange smell in the air, like something had died, but Robert thought it was probably an animal at the time. When State Trooper Frank Keenan talked to Robert further, he had him describe the car. The description fit the car Edward Surratt was driving at the time. Upon being shown photos of Edward Surratt, Robert is positive that is the man he saw 7 years ago. In March 1999, Pennsylvania State Troopers Ray Melder and Paul Epps interview Surratt. At the time, Surratt worked in a tag plant in prison that produced Florida registration plates. Surratt was considered to be a good worker. He was clean and disciplined. The troopers noted in their report that Surratt practices the Hindu religion. Surratt also has photos of his time in the military, including a photo of himself sitting next to a dead Vietnamese soldier. Supposedly, as the report notes, this was Surratt's first kill. Surratt told the troopers that there is nothing more that could be done to him that hasn't already been done, and that the families of the victims should just forgive and forget. The victims, in his opinion, were killed because it was in God's plan. Surratt also recants his confession about John Shelkin's murder, insisting that he was young, stupid, and wanted to avoid extradition to South Carolina. When asked about how many murders he committed, Surratt responds that he cannot answer for the old Ed Surratt, who died spiritually in 1992 when the new Ed Surratt adopted the Hindu religion. The second attempt to talk to Surratt takes place in 2007 when Beaver Township, Ohio Police Chief Carl Frost gets help from then Bar Harbor Police Chief Tom Hunker, who connected him with Joe Matthews, an investigator for America's Most Wanted. Matthews gains Surratt's trust and meets with him several times.
Something clicked with them, and one thing was he got Surratt, he ordered us coffee for Surratt, and they brought it to him, and they actually brought him cream, which he has never had cream in his coffee since he's been in prison. They won't give it to him. And so he took his coffee, and Joe took it off of him and took a sip. And they would just, that was it, they were bonded. I guess it's a prison thing, I mean, I understand it, but I wouldn't have known that, but Joe knew that from so many homicide investigations and interviewing so many prisoners that he developed a rapport with them.
Before Surratt gives information about any cases he was allegedly involved in, he wants to ensure that he gets something in return.
The ways you get Surratt to cooperate is you have something for him that he wants. So he's playing a cost-benefit game where he wants this, but if it's going to get him something that's going to be too high of a cost, then he's going to back off.
He wanted to be transferred to South Carolina because he believed, I don't remember all of his beliefs, but anyway, it was just creature comforts, and he hates Florida. Now, Ohio does do all of the things that he wants, but he won't talk to me anymore.
During their conversations, Surratt tells Matthews that both Linda Hamilton and Renee Greger's bodies are unrecoverable. All in all, there's no assurance that the full story of what happened to all of Surratt's alleged victims will ever be known.
He's unusual in that often when serial killers start confessing, they want to be the biggest, baddest serial killers, so they'll put it all out there. He's doling out information to get things back. And so he's quite a calculating person.
I mean, he's getting up there in age. He is as sharp now as he probably was then, or very near to it. He's not going to tell anybody out of the kindness of his heart because there is no kindness in his heart.
Sometimes when you're dealing with psychopaths, there's no remorse. Can they be taught that? Can they understand it? I'm not so naive to think that somebody can't come out of that and at least understand at some level. But Surratt's at a point in his life, by what we know, that the only time he would be willing to give up any information is if there was something in return. That's someone who doesn't really understand remorse. In talking to some of these survivors, they said that they wouldn't mind having information from Surratt. It would be important to them to know. And then others said, you know what, I'm past that, I'm not even going to worry about it. A person who has committed that many homicides really is, again, like I said, at that place in their life where they're not in a position to feel sorrow or pain or remorse for what they've done. But it doesn't mean that they can't share information. And hopefully he could look at it from that standpoint of, what if this was my family? I would want that information. And hopefully he'll give that information out, but I don't think he's at that point.
In his 1999 meeting with investigators, Surratt had this to say for himself. "I've progressed beyond the realities of this world. I will spend my days in heaven. People speak out about hell, but hell is here on earth. No one can do anything else to me that will matter." People have written articles and made me appear to be a monster. You tell the people, I don't care. I don't have a conscience, and they can't do anything more to me. It just doesn't matter.